Welcome back to Purple Heart Stories. Tonight, we've got a tale that starts slow and steady, but trust me, it builds into a real whirlwind by the end. You know what they say, still waters run deep. This simple love triangle? It's about to open up a whole can of worms in some characters you'd least expect it from. So grab a seat, kick back, and let's dive in. Chapter 1. Black tracks on white snow. Jack Hawthorne never saw his life taking such a hairpin turn. At 38, after a decade leading a mountain special ops team and a tour in Afghanistan that left its mark, he sunk his military compensation into a ski resort in Colorado. His wife, Kate, 32, whom he'd once rescued from a blizzard, was in charge of the finances. They had a good thing going, a real success story, until Alex Ryder showed up, a young, charismatic ski instructor who was all charm and a seasoned con artist underneath. Little did Jack know he was about to be rescuing his marriage and his business, not just lost tourists. Morning at the Northern Summit Ski Resort kicked off with the usual staff briefing. Jack stood before his team, leaning on a cane, that old knee wound acting up in the cold weather. He never let on if he was hurting in front of the crew, but something felt off today. Maybe it was the way Kate was eyeing the new extreme sports instructor. "We're launching the new lift next week," Jack said, looking around the room. "This is our chance to take the resort to the next level. The safety checks need to be airtight. That's why we hired ourselves a solid expert. Let me introduce Alex Ryder." Alex Ryder, leaning against the wall, flashed that winning smile of his. He'd rolled into town 3 weeks ago with glowing recommendations and had already won over the entire staff, especially the ladies. "I've got a few suggestions on how to beef up the security system," Alex said, his voice smooth and confident. "I've been studying the blueprints and spotted a couple of weak spots we should iron out." Kate jumped right in, backing him up. "I think we stand to gain a lot by having such a strong specialist and a big-hearted person on our team. Alex has a ton of experience working at big-name resorts." Jack noticed she was fidgeting with her wedding ring, a nervous tic she'd picked up in recent weeks. After the briefing, Jack went out for his daily rounds. The fresh snow crunched under his boots as he hiked up to the Eagle's Nest Chalet, a cozy cabin closed for the winter season. It was here, 5 years back, that he'd found Kate, then just a scared young woman who'd lost her way in a whiteout. Suddenly, he stopped dead in his tracks. There, in the untouched snow, were unmistakable tracks, women's and men's. They led straight to the service entrance of the chalet. Jack frowned. That part of the resort was off-limits right now. He moved silently, following the trail, and soon he could hear muffled voices coming from behind a slightly ajar window. "Come on, Jack won't suspect a thing." It was Kate's voice, but different, playful, almost seductive. "He's too wrapped up in this resort to see what's right in front of him. When he's busy with business, he's blind as a bat. And right now, he's poured a lot of money into this upgrade. What about the insurance paperwork?" It was Alex, his voice a low growl. "We need his John Hancock. Don't sweat it, honey. I've been handling the finances for 5 years. He'll sign without even looking. He trusts me on those matters." A smacking kiss, the rustle of clothing, suppressed laughter. Jack stepped away from the window, feeling a cold rage rising inside him. But 10 years in special ops had taught him one thing: never act on emotion. He silently walked away from the chalet and headed back to his office. Time to dig deeper. Before you strike, you gotta do some recon. That evening, Kate cooked a romantic dinner. She was unusually bubbly, chattering about new ideas for developing the resort. In the candlelight, her face looked so familiar, yet completely foreign. "That Alex, he's just lighting a fire under the whole team. He's got an amazing concept for the new lift," she said, talking fast. like she was afraid of being interrupted. And he's got great connections in the insurance game. We could seriously expand our coverage and be covered from all sides in case of unforeseen problems. Jack sipped his whiskey slowly, looking at his wife over the rim of his glass. Yeah, Alex seems very competent. He paused deliberately. Good. Handle the insurance together then. I trust your judgment. Kate beamed, but there was something almost predatory in her smile. Or was he just imagining it? Late that night, after the house had quieted down, Jack sat in his office, spreading out Alex Ryder's documents in front of him. Something about his resume didn't add up. Little inconsistencies that a regular person wouldn't notice, but that jumped out at a guy who'd spent 10 years vetting personnel before special ops. He picked up the phone and dialed an old buddy from military intelligence. Hey, Mike. Remember you said I could call anytime? I need some background on a guy, Alex Ryder, especially his work at other ski resorts, see if he's been on the radar anywhere else. Outside, a blizzard was howling, covering up tracks in the snow. But some tracks, even the heaviest snowfall can't hide. Chapter 2, Dark History. The phone call woke Jack up at 3 in the morning. The screen showed Mike Donovan, his old friend from military intelligence. No one calls at this hour with good news. Jack, you sitting down? 'Cause if not, you better sit down. It's as bad as it gets. Mike's voice was tight. What I found on your Alex Ryder, it's worse than that mess in Kandahar. Jack quietly switched on the desk lamp, trying not to wake Kate in the next room. His hand reached for a glass of whiskey, an old habit from his days in the service, when bad news was part of the job. For ski resorts have gone belly up in the last 5 years after tragic accidents with fatalities. The insurance companies cleaned them out. Settlements, payments to the families, endless lawsuits. And you know what I found linking all of them? Some kind of engineer and specialist who showed up a couple of months before each incident. Different names, but the same modus operandi. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. He remembered the conversation he'd overheard at the chalet. Insurance, paperwork. It was all starting to paint a disturbing picture. I'm sending you the files, Mike continued. And one more thing. Your rider is ex-military, but not just any Joe. He served in a private military company called Black Ice. Ever heard of them? Jack had. Nasty rumors floated around about that outfit. Dirty operations, contract killings, subversion. Everything he hated, even in the worst days of special ops. Thanks, buddy. Jack rubbed his temples. I owe you one. I'll keep my eyes peeled. Be careful. Those guys from Black Ice are psycho. Human life doesn't mean squat to them. They work to order. The jackpots they get from the insurance companies are huge. They won't stop for anything. The morning dawned bright and frigid. The resort was buzzing with activity, preparing for the grand opening of the new lift. Workers were running around, hanging up festive banners. Alex, always impeccable in his instructor's uniform, was overseeing the demo preparations. Oh, Jack, he waved cheerfully. Want to take a gander at the opening program? I've whipped up something special. Jack looked at the man with new eyes. Now he saw the predatory grin behind the friendly smile. Behind the graceful movements, years of training, not in a gym but in mercenary training camps. Sure, pal, show me. I'm too old for all these innovations in the world of entertainment. Jack forced himself to smile. The game was on, and he had to play his part perfectly. Alex spread out the plans on the hood of a snowmobile. His fingers, Jack only now noticed the calluses from handling weapons, danced over the trail diagrams. We're gonna stage the main show right here. Tricky section, but that just adds to the spectacle. We'll invite the press, investors. It'll be unforgettable. I'm sure it will, Jack muttered. noticing how Alex had highlighted the area near the ravine, the most dangerous spot on the whole slope. By lunchtime, the resort was buzzing like a disturbed beehive. The staff was smitten with the charismatic Alex, who seemed to be everywhere, breathing life into the work processes. He joked with the instructors, gave valuable advice to the technicians, and charmed the front desk staff. "He's just incredible," a young receptionist gushed. "Such a pro, and he's so easy to get along with. Is he single by any chance? Do you know?" "Beats me, honey. But yeah, he is a real pro." Jack swallowed a bitter chuckle. A professional killer and con artist. After lunch, he spotted Kate going into the tech office. 15 minutes later, Alex came out, casually stuffing some papers into the inside pocket of his jacket. Jack slipped into the room unnoticed. Kate was standing by the copier, gathering up the scattered documents. Insurance policies, technical specs, diagrams of the emergency systems. Her cheeks were flushed, and her hands were trembling slightly. "Oh, honey!" She jumped, noticing her husband. "You startled me. I'm just getting the documents ready for the insurance company." Alex suggested we update our policies before the new trail opens. You know, stuff happens. Better be covered from all sides. But, of course, I'm sure everything will go smoothly. We don't need any extra trouble, right? "Makes sense," Jack nodded. "Safety first. You're right to look over these papers. Mistakes can cost us the business." That evening, he slipped back into the tech office. In the trash can, he found crumpled blueprints of the lift with some markings on them. Jack smoothed out one of the sheets. Red XS marked the critical fasteners, as if someone was calculating the stress limits in the weakest spots of the construction. Interesting. The snow leopard bar was the tech staff's favorite hangout. Jack sat down at the bar, pretending to be engrossed in his drink. At the next table, the mechanics were discussing the upcoming opening. "These new requirements are kinda weird," Steve, the lead mechanic, grumbled. "First time I've seen anything like it in 15 years on the job. Loosen the tension on the cables by 10%. That's nuts. He says it'll increase the lift's capacity by half again. But it's dangerous. I tried to tell him." "Quiet," his partner interrupted. "The boss trusts this rider. He knows what he's doing. Our job is to do as we're told." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. Loosened cables. Tricky section of trail. A crowd of people at the opening. Insurance. The picture was so terrifying that even his battle-hardened heart clenched. Just then, Alex walked into the bar. He wasn't alone. Kate was with him, laughing at something he'd said. They didn't see Jack in the dim light and took a table in the back corner. Jack watched his wife lean in close to the killer, her hand resting on his, as they whispered to each other, glancing around every so often. From the outside, they looked like a pair of lovebirds. But Jack knew he was looking at two vultures, planning to feast on carrion. For ruined resorts, dozens of shattered lives, people permanently disabled from technical failures. And that was just what Mike had managed to dig up. How many more dark deeds were credited to the smiling instructor and his accomplices? His phone vibrated in his pocket. A message from Mike. "Found something else. Remember that incident in Switzerland 2 years ago? Looks like your guy was directly involved. The insurance payout was $40 million. Chapter 3. Game of Trust. After talking to Mike, sleep was impossible. Jack sat in his home office, turning a glass of whiskey in his hands that he never touched. Their wedding photo was on the table, the one where Kate looked at him with an adoration that took his breath away. He remembered that day in minute detail, how her hands trembled as she said her vows, how her hair smelled of winter freshness and mountain flowers, how her lips whispered, "I love you," between kisses. Now those same lips were whispering words of love to another man. What did I miss? His voice sounded surprisingly hoarse in the quiet office. When did I lose you, Kate? What's driving you, love or money? Or love of money? Her steady breathing came from the bedroom. She was sleeping soundly, too soundly for someone whose heart was torn between two men. Mike had said that in every one of Alex's scams, there was a woman in love turned into a pawn in his game. The morning briefing started promptly at 9. Jack watched as Alex, impeccable in his instructor's uniform, laid out the blueprints for the new security system. His movements were precise like a dancer or a fighter. Kate sat a little off to the side, legs crossed, biting the end of a pencil, an old habit of hers when she was nervous. As you can see, Alex said smoothly but confidently, the new system takes into account all the characteristics of the mountain terrain. We will significantly reduce the risks in all weather conditions. It will be super reliable. Amazing, Kate breathed, and in her voice was that admiration that once only belonged to Jack. Isn't it, honey? Jack slowly rose from his seat. The pain in his knee flared up again, a sure sign that he was about to do something dangerous. So amazing, he let a genuine smile touch his lips, that I think Alex should go to Denver with you, honey. You will help Kate with the technical details of the presentation. Won't you? The silence in the room was palpable. Kate and Alex exchanged quick glances, their eyes revealing a mixture of surprise and poorly concealed joy. Are you sure? Kate tried to keep her tone businesslike, but her voice trembled traitorously. I could handle it myself, of course, but if you insist. Of course you could. Jack approached his wife, limping slightly. But this is Alex's project. No one can better explain all the technical nuances to the insurance company bookworms. Besides, he squeezed her shoulder encouragingly, it will be easier to convince the insurance company if the two of you are there. Your beauty and charm plus Alex's brains, a recipe for success. I believe in you. I'd be happy to help. Of course, I have a lot of work here, but so be it. I'll help. Alex tried to speak evenly, but in his eyes flashed something resembling triumph. If Kate doesn't mind. Of course, she doesn't. Jack smiled even wider. Do you, honey? When everyone had left, Kate remained. Her hands were shaking as she approached her husband. Jack, if you think something, then, she began, but he interrupted her, pulling her close. Everything's fine, sweetheart. I don't think anything. I trust you completely. And Alex too. You are an excellent team. Truly. Come here, darling. She shuddered in his embrace, and for a moment it seemed to him that she wanted to say something. But the moment passed, and Kate silently left the office. All day, Jack watched them prepare for the trip. Their anxious glances, the accidental touches, the quiet conversations in the corner. All of it told the story not of a criminal conspiracy, but of a desperate, blind passion. Or was it? He saw Kate reaching for Alex, like a flower to the sun. How her eyes lit up at his every appearance. How she secretly inhaled his scent when he leaned over the documents. It all seemed so natural. In the evening, when both had gone to pack their bags for tomorrow's trip, Jack heard a ring. The phone vibrated. A message from an informant from the insurance company made his heart clench. Kate had recently changed the terms of the insurance. In the event of an accident with human casualties, all compensation, $50 million, was to be paid directly to her. Lord, Kate, Jack muttered, looking at the night mountains. What have you let him drag you into? A call from Mike sounded like the last nail in the coffin. Jack, I found something interesting. In every one of his scams, there was a woman in love. Guess what happened to them? Jack knew. Oh, he knew too well what happens to pawns when they are no longer needed. But now he had an advantage, a whole day to study all the details of the impending catastrophe, while these two were in Denver, thinking they had outsmarted him. Chapter 4. The Trap. Jack stood by the panoramic window of his office, watching Kate's silver Lexus disappear around a hairpin turn. His wife and Alex had left for Denver to meet with the insurance company. 36 hours. That's how much time he had to uncover their plan. That's why he suggested that they go together. Okay, let's play detective, he muttered to himself, heading to the tech office. In the empty building, his footsteps echoed off the walls, where pictures of happy skiers hung. Funny how quickly a place he had created for people's joy had turned into a setting for someone's dark plans. Alex's office was spotless, all the files arranged alphabetically, not a speck of dust on the table. Jack smirked. Army habits die hard. He was the same way 7 years after retiring, and he still folded his socks by the book. The new safety specifications were in a blue folder with gold lettering. As Jack flipped through the pages, his professional gaze picked out details that painted a chilling picture. Alex was damn good. Every change seemed perfectly logical. Every modification had an impeccable technical justification. Son of a gun, Jack whistled, examining the diagrams through a magnifying glass. You're an artist. A goddamn Beethoven. The plan was impeccable. The accident was to look like the result of a tragic accident. But what struck Jack most of all was the carefully calculated scene of the accident, minimizing possible casualties. Alex didn't want blood. He just wanted money. Jack spent the next few hours at the top station of the cable car. The biting wind was bone-chilling, but he methodically checked every joint, every fastener. When he found the critical point, a place where the modified fasteners would not withstand a certain combination of load and wind, he was overcome with a sharp sense of déjà vu. It was the same in Afghanistan, when he discovered a mined bridge the day before the planned passage of the convoy. Then he managed to save his men. No one died. What would happen this time? History repeats itself, he muttered, photographing the fasteners. But now the enemy is not hiding in the mountains. He's sleeping with my wife. Returning to the office, he found that Kate had hastily forgotten to log out of her email account on the home computer. Abandoning false decorum, Jack sat down to read her correspondence. The letters in the personal folder opened his eyes to the true scope of the betrayal. Dear Mom, you always said that I deserve the best, that I'm wasting the best years with this soldier. I finally understood what you meant. After everything that happens soon, I can start a new life. It will look like an accident. They often happen in the mountains. Jack will lose the business and won't even realize that Alex has circled him like a complete fool. By the way, about Alex. He offered me a share in this matter and thinks I'm a stupid blonde who bought into his charms. Well, I'm playing along as best I can. But his hopes that I'll share the insurance are just as stupid and unfounded. Only I will win. As soon as the deed is done, we'll go on a cruise around the world right away. I promise. So that's how it is. That damn mother-in-law. An apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I knew that her daughter with age turns into her. Jack leaned back in his chair, feeling a strange emptiness. His wife turned out to be much more cunning than he thought. So, it's not Alex who seduced his wife, but she herself planned to use him blindly, so that he would be up to his ears guilty of the tragedy, and she'd be a winner. Well, it's more interesting to continue playing this game with a worthy opponent. The next evening, their SUV returned from Denver. Kate flew into the house, beaming with success, with packages from expensive stores. Alex followed her, radiating the calm confidence of a person in control of the situation. Jack, honey, Kate pecked him on the cheek, smelling of new perfume. You can't imagine how great everything went. The insurance company is thrilled with our modernization plans. Alex is such a good guy. The two of us were sweating all night before the meeting at the desk, checking the documents. Everything went without a hitch. They practically begged us to start as soon as possible, added Alex, settling into Jack's favorite armchair. It's the first time they've seen such an approach to security. Of course, Jack smiled, pouring whiskey into glasses. By the way, about security. I was thinking, about what, honey? Kate froze by the kitchen counter, and something in her voice made Jack wary. Tomorrow is the last day before the opening. I suggest that the three of us go through the entire cable car route in the morning. Let's check every knot, every fastener. I want to be sure of the safety before launch. No one but us, the most interested parties, can do it better, right? What do you think about this? There was a deathly silence. Jack almost physically felt the tension thickening in the room. Honey, Kate began, but Alex interrupted her. Jack, you're absolutely right. I really appreciate your thoroughness. But let's be honest. Tomorrow is just a crazy day. A full round will take at least 8 hours. And we still have a bunch of unresolved issues with the documents, a check of the security systems, plus, your wife and I practically didn't sleep last night. So we won't have time for the whole route, Jack shrugged. But let's at least look at the main part, approximately to the middle span. What do you think? Alex relaxed almost imperceptibly. Yes, that's reasonable. The main thing is to check the main section. It has the greatest load and the flow of tourists. Agreed. Jack saluted with his glass. We're going out at 8 in the morning. And don't forget full gear. You need to be ready for anything in the mountains. Of course, honey, Kate smiled, but her fingers, clutching a glass of wine, were trembling slightly. As you say, dear. When they went to their rooms, Jack stood for a long time by the window, looking at the snowy peaks. Somewhere up there, at altitude, the denouement of this story was waiting for him. And he knew exactly what section of the route they would be checking especially carefully tomorrow. Chapter 5. The Trap Springs. The morning greeted them with a piercing wind and low, heavy clouds. Jack stood at the foot of the lift, checking his gear. Climbing gear, safety ropes, radios, just like in the good old days in mountain special ops. A GoPro camera was discreetly attached to his chest, plus something special, hidden in the inside pocket of his jacket. A small gift that will present a big surprise to a loving couple. Damn cold, he shuddered, looking at the thermometer. -15, the wind is picking up. Perfect weather for what he had in mind. Kate appeared first impeccable in her Bogner ski suit with light makeup, as if she was going to a photo shoot, not a technical inspection. Good morning, honey. She pecked him on the cheek. God, what a terrible cold. Maybe we should postpone the check. Afraid of freezing? Jack smirked. Don't worry, it'll get hot soon. What do you mean? It's just that the weather can change, he shrugged, watching her fingers fidget with the carabiners. I'm here. Alex appeared suddenly, as always collected and businesslike. Should we start from the lower station and move up to the middle span and then back as agreed? Sure. Jack patted him on the shoulder. That's where the fun begins. He noticed Kate and Alex exchange glances. Quick, anxious look, like two snakes that sensed danger, but didn't yet understand where it was coming from. The first hour was spent on routine checks. Alex lectured about the technical details with the air of a professor giving a lecture. See these fasteners? I reinforced them with additional braces. Now no storm is terrible. Everything is reliable here. Impressive, Jack nodded. And what's further there? Around the corner. Nothing special, Alex replied too quickly. Standard configuration. Still, let's check it. Jack moved forward. Since we're here. Honey, Kate grabbed his sleeve. Maybe that's enough for today? I'm frozen. My legs are ice cold. You don't want me to get sick, do you? Hold on, dear. There's very little left. He methodically led them to the intended point, to where, according to Alex's diagrams, weakened fasteners were installed, in the place where the height difference created the maximum load on the structure. Do you know what the most important thing in the mountains is? Jack asked casually as they approached the spot. The ability to read signs. Weather, snow, people, everything leaves traces. You just need to know how to notice them. What are you getting at? There was wariness in Alex's voice. Oh, nothing. I just remembered. By the way, look. What's that strange knot of fasteners? I've never seen anything like it. At that moment, a deafening roar rang out. A sound like a thunderclap echoed through the gorge. Fragments of ice and small stones showered down from above. Alex instantly assessed the situation, the section weakened by him ahead, a suddenly approaching avalanche behind. A second to think, a choice between two deaths. This way, he shouted, pointing forward, although his heart clenched with understanding. He was leading them straight to where he himself had weakened the fasteners. But the avalanche seemed scarier. Its roar grew louder, and with it the panic grew. Jack! Oh God! Where should I run? Kate rushed between the men, her eyes wide with horror. Forward! Run forward! Alex grabbed her hand, but not to pull her along. On the contrary, he gently pushed her. Run first! I'll follow you. Kate rushed forward along the narrow platform. She didn't know exactly where the weak link on the route was. Unlike Alex, who, holding his breath, watched her every step. The structure should withstand the weight of one person. He had calculated everything when preparing the accident. But not two. Her every step echoed with a slight vibration of the metal, but the fasteners held. Alex! She turned around in the middle of the span. What are you waiting for? He hesitated. He was afraid to get too close to her in order not to increase the load. The snow was falling harder and harder. Stones rattled against the metal structures. There was no choice. Cursing, Alex stepped onto the platform. The first step, the second. The metal under his feet bent almost imperceptibly. Faster! Panic rang in Kate's voice. He had almost reached her when he heard the first alarming creak. The sound of overstressed metal that he had imagined so many times when planning the accident. The structure couldn't withstand the weight of two people. Damn it! Back! He shouted, but it was too late. The right cable burst first, exactly as he had planned when calculating the accident. The metallic singing was cut short by a sharp bang. Then, unable to withstand the doubled load, the left one cracked. The platform tilted, and at that moment Alex began to look for Jack nearby. Where was he? There he was, standing right where the first stones were falling. For some reason, he didn't run after them, but stood at a safe distance, and there was something like triumph in his eyes. Wasn't he afraid of the avalanche? Why? What was going on? Oh my God! Jack! Save me! Kate screamed, grabbing a piece of the railing. The ground fell away from under their feet. They were falling into the abyss, and in those seconds Alex realized the terrifying irony of what was happening. He had fallen into his own trap. He was the victim who was supposed to bring millions. But instead of a deadly blow against the rocks, there was the sound of sliding on the snow. Approaching the edge, Jack saw how the two of them, hooked by safety ropes to fragments of the structure, were rolling down the steep slope straight to the dark gap in the rock, the entrance to a natural ice cave. Oh God, no! Kate's cry was cut short as the snow swept them into the darkness. Jack knew about this cave. It was marked on all maps as a danger zone. A deep crevasse that goes at an angle into the thickness of the mountain. Spacious enough to survive falling into it, but too treacherous and slippery to get out without help. Jack slowly lowered himself by rope to a small plateau at the entrance to the cave. "Hey, are you alive in there? Kate? Are you okay, honey?" he shouted into the darkness. "Yes. Damn it." Alex's voice sounded muffled. "Kate's here, seems to be intact. Get us out of here, Jack. It's terribly cold here. We won't last long. Jack, please." There were tears in Kate's voice, but now real ones. "It's so dark and cold here. I don't think I can feel my legs. I'll organize a rescue now," Jack shouted, stepping back from the edge. "I'm leaving and will be back in a few hours with rescuers. Hold on." In fact, of course, he didn't go anywhere, and sat down nearby, listening to how the events inside the cave would unfold. The sounds from there clearly reached the outside like from a well. He didn't have to wait long. He heard the panic start below. First quiet curses, then increasingly loud accusations. "Damn idiot!" Kate's voice broke. "It's all your fault. Your idiotic plan with a staged accident. How did you let us almost die ourselves? Why did you push me to run forward to where everything was supposed to fall apart? Did you decide to get rid of me?" "Shut up, you fool," Alex snapped. "You're not so innocent yourself. Do you think I don't know about your plans? You wanted to screw me over, didn't you? Take all the money for yourself after getting the insurance. And what, were you counting on an honest split?" Her laughter sounded hysterical. "God, how naive you are. Only my own husband is stupider than you. My mother always said that I wasn't lucky with men." Jack settled down more comfortably on a stone, taking out a thermos with hot coffee from his backpack. Now there was no need to rush. Let the cold and fear do their job. Let all the dirt, all the secret plans and betrayals come to the surface. Let these two spiders in one jar eat each other. And he would wait. After all, he had been preparing for this day for a long time. Chapter 6. Cold Confession. The sun went down. The cold in the ice cave became more and more unbearable. An hour had passed, maybe more in the darkness. Time lost its meaning. Kate and Alex, exhausted, huddled together, trying to keep warm, but the proximity, so desirable yesterday, now caused only disgust. Their breath escaped in white clouds of steam, settling in stinging crystals on their clothes. "Jack! Damn it! Where is he?" Kate shouted for the umpteenth time, her voice breaking from despair. "Please! I can't feel my legs anymore. We're going to freeze to death here." The echo echoed off the icy walls, repeating her plea many times. Somewhere in the depths of the cave, water dripped steadily, like a metronome, counting down the time to the denouement. "It's useless," Alex muttered, rubbing his frozen hands. "That bastard just left us here to die. I wouldn't be surprised if he figured us out. What's more, he'll get the insurance." "What an irony. Don't you dare." Kate turned sharply to him. "Don't you dare talk about him like that. If it wasn't for your damn scam." "My scam?" Alex laughed bitterly. "As if you're an angel. And who forged the documents and his signature? Who was pretending to be a loving wife?" Above, where a dim light marked the exit from the cave, Jack's silhouette appeared. Something was glinting in his hands, climbing gear. "Good evening. I'm back. Although I must admit I didn't go anywhere." "What a touching quarrel." His voice sounded almost cheerful, almost domestic. "Keep going. It's very interesting to watch you shift the blame onto each other." "Jack, thank God you're here." "Honey." Kate leaned forward. Her face contorted with pain, her frozen muscles refused to obey. "I beg you. You're not like that. You've always been kind, noble. Shut up, Alex interrupted her. Do you think your acting talents still work? He's already figured everything out. That's right. I figured everything out a long time ago, and I was ready for what happened today. What you took for an avalanche, Alex, was just an explosion of a dynamite charge over your heads. An imitation avalanche. And then you did everything yourself. Jack sat down on the edge of the crevasse, holding a coil of rope in his hands. And now about the rescue. I have equipment for lifting. True, only one set. And you know why? Because to get the insurance, someone has to stay here forever. Do you understand what I'm talking about? But before we decide who will get it, let's talk. We haven't had an honest conversation in so long. You seemed like a soldier simpleton, a village fool with a military pension. But you turned out to be a sick sadist. Do you realize what you're suggesting? What's there to talk about? Alex muttered through his teeth, but there was already fear in his voice. Get us out of here. Damn you. What do you mean someone has to stay here? Have you gone crazy? Well, that's interesting. Jack turned on a powerful flashlight, pointing the beam right in their faces. Fear makes people real. Look, Kate, your lover is already starting to panic. And this was his plan. So perfect. So thought out. Okay, Jack. Okay. I'm guilty, I admit it. I lost. Alex tried to give his voice firmness. But let's discuss it like men. You understand, it's just business. Nothing personal. It just happened. There's no need for someone to die now. It's just money. Get me out, I won't be offended. I have good capital. Not as huge as the insurance, but still. You won't be at a loss. And Kate, she betrayed you. If it comes to that, think about it. It's much worse than money. We have nothing personal with each other. Nothing personal? Jack laughed demonically, and the laughter echoed off the walls of the cave. Seduce my wife, plan an accident at my resort, steal my money. You call that nothing personal? He's lying. Kate suddenly shouted. Jack, listen. He manipulated me, used my weaknesses. I was such a fool. I'm not guilty of anything. We've shared a bed for so many years. And who is he? Just a scoundrel who almost destroyed our marriage. But now everything is clear to me about him. Forgive me, Jake. You can't leave me out here to die of frostbite. I'm your wife. Her voice broke with sobbing, so sincere that for a moment Jack felt a pang of doubt. But only for a moment. Honey, he shook his head. Don't get so worked up. I saw your letter. Remember? A very frank letter to your mother-in-law. If I remember correctly, you wanted to ruin me first, get the insurance money, and then you didn't plan to share with your lover at all. Isn't that right? Let's be honest, since we're having an honest conversation. How are you better than him? Kate froze, her eyes widening with horror. Alex turned sharply to her. What letter? What do you mean you weren't planning to share? I didn't. She stammered, and suddenly her face changed. The mask of a helpless victim fell off, revealing a completely different expression, hard, calculating. Well, okay. She straightened up as much as the space of the cave allowed. Want the truth, Jack? Yes, I planned a scam. Yes, I wanted to screw him over. She jerked her head towards Alex. And you know why? He's just a tool. A perfect scapegoat. What? Alex jerked towards her, but slipped on the ice. Think about it yourself, Jack. Kate's voice became businesslike, almost intimate. All the evidence is against him. He designed the accident, he prepared the fasteners. His signatures are everywhere. If something happens to him now, it will look so natural. A criminal who died in his own trap. The responsibility is entirely on him. Zero suspicion on us. I get the insurance. We get the insurance, honey. Let's leave him here to die. You're a monster, Alex breathed. A goddamn parasite. And I thought, what did you think, you idiot? She turned to him, and steel rang in her voice. That you charmed a stupid housewife? That I fell in love with your cheap tricks? Face it, you were always just a pawn. Jack? She turned to her husband again, and her voice became soft, ingratiating. We can still fix everything. Right now. Insurance, money, everything will be ours. Let's start over, just the two of us. And this scum will get what he deserves. He's a criminal, a con artist. No one will miss him. In the morning, we'll find his frozen corpse here. Give me the climbing equipment. God. Alex laughed, hoarsely, terrifyingly. What an idiot I was. And the guys warned me. You play the lover too well. Shut up. She almost spat out the word. Jack, decide. Time is running out, it'll be dark soon. One push, and it'll all be over. Think about the money, about the future. We can even not do anything with him. Just leave him here alone. He'll freeze to death by morning. About the future? Jack slowly rose. You know what I'm thinking about? About the day when I found you in the blizzard. You were shaking with cold, clinging to me as if I was your savior, just like now. Was that also a game? No. Something wavered in her voice. Then no. I really loved you, Jack. But then, you were always messing with your resort, with your grand plans. And I wanted more. A huge multi-million-dollar insurance payout. Right away in one day. And for the sake of this more, you are ready to send a man to his death? He's not a man. He's the same con artist as you, Jack finished quietly. He took out the radio. All posts, Hawthorne speaking, calling a rescue team, and the police. No! The two prisoners of the ice cave shouted in unison. Yes! Jack began to unwind the rope. I will save both of you, because there are things more important than revenge. There are concepts of honor and justice. You won't understand this, but it doesn't matter. Jack! In Kate's voice, something real sounded for the first time. I loved you. I really loved you once. I know, honey. That's why I'm saving you. But love and justice are different things. Especially here, in the mountains, where everyone sooner or later shows their true face. He began to lower the equipment. And below, in the cold darkness, two people looked at each other with hatred, gradually realizing that they had lost. They lost to someone they considered too simple and honest for their sophisticated games. Someone who turned out to be stronger than both of them in this cave. The rescue operation lasted almost 3 hours. Jack watched as professionals, whom he himself had once trained, methodically extracted 2 semi-frozen people from the ice cave. Kate didn't look at him, only down, as if the ice under her feet hid some answers. When the police arrived, the snow had already stopped falling. Nature, it seemed, also wanted to see the finale of this story. Officer Rogers, an old friend of Jack's from military service, silently listened to the recording from the cave. God, Jack, was all he said, shaking his head. How did you even survive? Jack smiled wryly. You know, there's a rule in the mountains. Never underestimate your opponent, even if that opponent is your own wife. The trial took place 3 months later. The hall was full journalists, owners of other resorts, local residents. Everyone wanted to see the denouement of a story that had shaken their quiet town. Jack sat in the front row right behind his ex-wife. Her expensive perfume, which he once loved so much, now made him sick. Kate held up perfectly. She had always been an excellent actress. She talked about clouded reason, about how she was dragged into the scam, blamed everything on Alex. She cried, begged for forgiveness. But Jack saw her tears were as fake as their last years together. Alex broke. On the second day of the trial, he told everything about other resorts, about past scams, about how he and Kate had planned this one. His detailed testimony became the last nail in the coffin. 20 years, the judge announced. To both, without parole. As they were led away, Kate finally turned to Jack. There was no repentance, no love in her eyes, only the anger of a cornered predator. A year passed. The Northern Summit Resort not only survived, it flourished. The story of the averted tragedy made it a legend. People believed a place where truth won over lies could not be dangerous. If you like this story, then support the author with a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your emotions in the comments. Thank you.